I'm going to start. Robert Canto.
Here.
David St. Germain.
Here.
Liz Sanford.
Here.
Peter Zarella.
Here.
And alternates Bruce Polsky,
Here.
Mike Tucci.
Here.
And I will note for the record that Matthew Bandel and Scott Halstead are absent this evening. Okay, Madam Chair, it's all yours.
Thank you, Shannon. Good evening, everyone. My name is Liz Sanford, and I'm acting chair this evening. It's July 7th, 2025, and welcome to this evening's Town Plan and Zoning meeting. First things, I need to ask both Bruce and Mike if you are willing to be voting members this evening.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Bob, can you read the legal notice, please?
Absolutely. Notice is hereby given that the Town Plan and Zoning Commission will hold a hybrid in-person and online public hearing on July 7th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers on the following applications. Farmington Land Trust LLC, application for special permit and site plan review for the removal of fill/construction materials associated with a roading fishing platform and the construction of a new accessible public observation platform and boardwalk at 8738 River Road, FPO zone. Carrier Development LLC, application for special permit and site plan review for expanded home in excess of 2,400 square feet living area and 3,200 square feet total area, and drilling, blasting, and rock crushing for a new single-family dwelling at 112 Red Oak Hill Road, R30 zone. Interested parties are encouraged to participate in this hybrid public hearing. Participation in person is at 1 Monteith Drive, Town Hall, Town Council Chambers, or online participation is via the link to the meeting on the Town of Farmington's website. A copy of this proposal is online or by calling the Planning Department at Farmington Town Hall, dated at Farmington, Connecticut, this 19th day of June, 2025, Town Plan and Zoning Commission.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's start with, we're going to start off with new business. So who's here first, Janet?
So we've got the Farmington Board of Education application for signs for a variety of the elementary schools and the middle school. So if whomever is presenting would please come to the podium the podium. We do everything from the podium, fellas. So, and then I'll have Lauren, the podium at the end. Sorry, please. Thank you. And then I've got the full presentation is up on the screen. It's loaded into the AV drive. So your
Nice.
final documents are all here in the order that you gave them to me. And then I've got separate aerial exhibits to help with locations for each of the schools if we need them.
Thank you. My name's Lauren Rosen. I own Artifacts. We're from Bloomfield, Connecticut. And I just made 119 copies, but I see you have big, beautiful new screens. I don't know if you want copies up close. It probably doesn't matter at this point, but I need just enough for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Pass it down.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, starting with East Farm School. Essentially, we looked at every location and the signs that are existing are older. They're in kind of tough shape. And we decided to come out with a system that was somewhat thematic, where each school would have a logo or an insignia embedded into the sign. And then the sign would feature the name of each school with dimensional lettering. typically the signs that we're building, we try to use aluminum plate. So the fabrication is 1/8 inch aluminum plate. It's welded. And everything that you see that's a graphic or copy is 1/2 inch acrylic that's sprayed with automotive epoxy. So what we've kind of settled on for a building technique are materials that last forever. And we use automotive paints that we add matte. It's a matte additive that we put into the paint to give it a low luster architectural finish. So pretty much the design incorporates 2 6x6 columns. It's a double-sided sign. The shape works both from the front and the back. And the logo is suspended between the swaled capital, I guess you call it capital swooping molding, for lack of a better term. There's a lintel on the bottom, and the faces are inset. Letters are mounted with studs, and they have a 1/4 inch standoff, little bit of airspace. Additionally, the bear paw is dimensional, so that'll pull away from the sign, give it some interest. As far as square footage, all of the signs that we've designed either match or are slightly under what's existing now. Now, in this particular, for instance, there was a brick pedestal that's, we looked at it and asked, should we repoint it? Should we try to rebuild parts? And the end conclusion was we decided to take it out. It's in tough shape. So we applied what we would save on some of these pedestals that were falling apart and apply them to slightly nicer signs. And that's pretty much it for East Farms. Union School was probably in the best shape of them all. It's a unique sign in the sense it's a tavern style sign. The structure itself was in pretty good shape. So we're going to repaint the structure, repaint the stanchion arm. We're making a new oval sign. So the sign itself is brand new. And again, that will be welded 1/8 inch plate, has a structural inside of 2x2 tubing, which is also 1/8 inch aluminum. Everything's welded. And this particular sign, it's cut through up top. So that circular component is a see-through. And within that see-through is, again, the school logo or insignia, which is an eagle. So you'll see the same eagle from both sides facing toward the school. Lettering is raised. The lettering on the bottom since 1939 is an applied vinyl graphic, which will be a sprayed finish to match the sprayed finish of the letter forms. And also there's a cove molding around the perimeter that will also be sprayed a metallic gold to match the lettering. It's new hardware, which is not that significant, but a little bit stronger than what's up there now. And that's Union School. There's an existing pedestal at the West District School, which is in fairly good shape. It's a little bit unusual in the sense that it's only a brick's worth thick, which is about 8 inches. One of the thinner pedestals I've seen, but we looked at it and tested it out, it was actually in pretty good shape. What we decided to do was to manufacture a new capital for the top, a crown molding with an arch in the center. It was actually kind of expensive. We tried to figure a way to make it where it wasn't so expensive, and in the long run, we gave the school a discount, or the school board. So I think that really gives some substance to that otherwise thin structure. The sign is a one-to-one replacement with the sign that's there now. It's a dimensional 1.5 inch thick sign that's also 1/8 inch aluminum plate. The tiger, the insignia, appears to be a little bit bright in this particular shot, but that in the lettering, again, 1/2 inch raised acrylic that's sprayed. All the finishes are low luster. The details in the tiger, along with the eagle, they'll be probably done with a brush and enamel paint. Molding is black, and there's a gold inline to match the lettering. This, I was looking on Google and I noticed that a massive, I think it was either a blue spruce or some type of evergreen was taken away from this area. So it's a nice freestanding sign without all that encumbrance. It looks nice now. So Noah Wallace, we had to be careful, and it's part of the historic district. Same format as the other signs, except that one, we used kind of a traditional moss green. There's not much of an insignia except for what will be a painted graphic of the old portion of the school. We'll be painting that by hand. Some pretty good artists, so it'll have a nice look to it. Some added moldings, some insets, a couple of traditional motifs. Lettering in this case is white, also raised, also with an airspace between it and the background. You know, we talked about this sign, and right away, I think your average, I don't know if it's just the average person off the street or what people think about signage and what constitutes a traditional sign, but right away, the answer is wood. And we use a lot of wood. In fact, we use tons and tons of all types of wood. Outside, we use cedar, mahogany, teak, cypress, all the traditional woods that have tannin and are self-preserving. However, the paint is what we look for, and the paint finish. How consistent is the finish? Does it have a low luster? Will it last a long time? Do we have to go back in 3 or 4 years and touch it up? So what we're trying to do, in each case, we're trying to put out signs that will last one lifetime for structure. And then the paints we use are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years, depending on what elevation. Southern takes a little more weather. Northern lasts a little bit longer, but in general, we build for longevity, and we felt that we would stick with the same materials, but kind of modify the look. So there's a matching, it's kind of an ensemble on the building. There's what would be called a directional projecting sign. People are getting confused at times. I don't know if it's new visitors but there's some confusion about where the main entrance is to the school. So what we did was we selected a tavern style projecting sign. Again, the same type of materials. The bracket's a custom bracket up top. It's wrought iron. We actually mill it from aluminum, but when it's done, it looks pretty much like wrought iron. Throw in a second color around the arrow to give it a little bit of accent. And the lettering, again, dimensional. And it's a sister paired sign with the ground sign that you saw. Little more work at Irving Robbins, I'm sorry. We were out there doing a survey, and a woman who I assumed to be the principal or one of the administrators came out and said, if you're looking at signs, we need something to identify the front of this school. And we looked at it, we measured, we took pictures, and we're putting in dimensional letters on the front of the school as a secondary sign, a secondary ID sign. And, you know, kind of sets off the building. It directs people to the front entrance. And we try to be conservative in the type style. We line the left and right of the letters up with the windows. And it's again, 1/2-inch acrylic, in this case, painted white with a standoff and a stud mount. This matches, sorry about that. This matches the sign across the street. And East Farms sits just diagonally from this. So they have the same shape, same format. Irving A. Robbins has a green color with a white letter that's dimensional. Their logo is the Road Runner, which will also be dimensional and hand painted. Again, a double face sign. So you'll see the same thing from both sides, just a flip and reverse with the Road Runner running away from the school in this case. And then there is one other sign, which is a secondary directional that we're posting at the corner of the, where there's a secondary entrance to the athletic fields. And it directs people, 1, to the athletic fields, and then 2, to the main entrance. And I guess there's some confusion there where people take that secondary entrance looking for the main entrance. But again, the administrator and the folks that we worked with felt that it'd be a good idea to tell people main entrance down this way. Same materials, all structural aluminum posts, structural aluminum signs that are about 1 inch thick. And this type of sign, well, the footings are 42 inches, appropriate amount of concrete. And again, epoxy finishes that are low luster architectural finish. There's a skirt on the bottom of this post that's probably going to be made of PVC that's sprayed to match. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Do you have any questions?
No questions. Great presentation.
Okay. Peter, how about you? Any questions?
No, thank you for the presentation.
Thanks.
Okay, Bruce?
Just a one, what's on the back of the West District sign? Because the others look like they're all two-sided.
There's actually brick. There's nothing.
Flat.
It faces the school, the fields. In this case, we maxed out the square footage with the front presentation, which is just under 32 square feet.
And it's been like that for some time, right? It's
Yeah,
the brick.
you know,
thing.
if it was my property, I might think about 3 small bushes with some sedum, just to dress it up a little bit.
Right, that's sort of where my head was going with that too. I was wondering if we'd had any issues with graffiti or anything like that at any point, but I guess not. If it's been there for some time, it won't attract anything like that. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Mike, any questions?
No questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
And Dave?
Hi, nice presentation. These look great. Thanks so much. It's nice to see them, and get an idea of what you were thinking behind it. No questions.
Thank you.
Okay. And now it's my turn. My one question is one that I don't know if you can answer. It might be a Shannon question. Is Union School in the Unionville Historic?
No, it's not.
It is not. Oh, okay. Interesting. I just didn't know.
Noah is, but Union School is not.
Okay.
So the Noah Wallace sign will go to the Farmington Historic District on next Tuesday. But yeah, I'll
Okay. I was just curious. I
double-
wasn't
triple
sure
check myself, but
parameters
I'm-
of the
Yeah, I'm 99% certain.
Unionville District.
Yeah,
It's okay.
thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, our
Okay.
Board of Ed member and a
Good.
Unionville Historic District member. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. I'm pretty sure I double checked that, but yeah.
I
Thank
thought
you.
so too. Okay, thank you. Well, I agree that the presentation is great. I think the signs will be a lovely upgrade and
Yeah, I assure you they'll last for a long time. When I was young, when I first started the business 43 years ago,
Mhm.
I used to be proud to give these lifetime warranties. But now that I'm older, I think
It's back.
That's one good thing.
Go to our website, look at museums.
This is back up.
Orange. Oh, okay. Back and back up in the
Yeah.
audio.
You go up here.
Well, I'm off of here, but I've got it, so now.
It
It says Farmington. What is?
Seasonal picture.
Right?
Video. Okay.
Where's the? No, this is no idea what you said. This one. Are you up online?
It looks like this is.
Yeah.
I mean. You're not, this isn't my forte, but it look. I still have, I mean, I still have our map. It still shows,
Yeah,
so
you're
it's
online.
showing. And I'm hard depicted here.
Where do you
Okay.
live in relation to
So
you?
it looks like I'm good. It didn't lose the map.
Yeah. So it's just getting stuff.
You lost Mary too?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I never.
and it looks like that's on, because in that room, I can
Wi-Fi.
see the camera's working, but it's not coming through here. So I don't know if it's this interface in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get
I'm
this
still-
working, we're gonna be okay.
Did you catch that?
Okay, so then
Yeah, she joined somewhere.
So Kate, what was that?
She said she can hear it in the room.
Yep.
In the map, but she can't see it.
Okay, right. So that, yeah, it's just this camera. It's not the cameras. Yep,
Start first.
I did. Yeah, that's all done. So that's showing in there. Is this interface grabbing it?
They can hear us. They're not gonna have to- Right, they're gonna postpone, right. She says they can hear and they can see. They're able to see PowerPoint, so they just can't see.
Okay.
So they should be able to participate. Right? Well, it looks like the Wi-Fi signal just came on. The globe's not there. Yeah, normally when you. I just text maybe if you have power, she will respond. My kids went to schools. I was in.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, things happen, things happen. That's when they shut schools down.
Yeah, me too, Brian.
I know. and so now-
We had an application. We just finished, I think.
Close.
Well, we haven't voted yet. You can't go anywhere.
Yeah, close. Don't go back. Don't go back.
Yeah. I'll call you back if we have any more issues. Thanks. Bye. See, we will launch right there soon. Yeah.
Back in business. Okay, David St. Germain, can you do a sound check for me? I'm assuming you can hear us and can you
Hear
confirm?
you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. All
That's
right, and you can see the screen?
Yeah, there's a yellow patch at the top right.
Yep.
It's not working yet.
No, we're good. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with us. Sorry, we had a power outage here at Town Hall, so there was a few-minute intermission. So we had gotten to the end of questions for just the first application,
Mhm.
and I believe we are ready to start to take a vote. Madam Chair, is
I
where we
think that's
left
what
off,
we
I
were-
believe.
Okay, board members, anyone have any other questions, concerns, anything that you need addressed before we move to a vote? Okay, so I need a motion and a second.
Want me to do, okay.
You're up.
All right. I would like to make a motion that we accept the application to replace signs attached and ground mounted at elementary schools, the 4 locations, and middle school located at 25 Wolf Pit Road, 173 School Street, Unionville, 114 West District Road, Unionville, 6 School Street, and 20 Wolf Pit Road residential zones.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Thank you.
All set. Thanks for your help, Matt. I have yours. I've got Brian's. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, the next item up for discussion, metal supermarkets, and Deborah Sisitsky.
Well done.
Shannon, I know it's small.
Thank you.
computers, But can you get the screen sharing to work or not?
I'm sorry, say that again.
The screen
Screen
sharing,
sharing.
are you gonna,
Oh, on those, that I don't know how to.
okay,
Okay,
Don't
no
worry about it.
problem.
don't worry
We'll,
about it.
we'll look.
Yeah, that I don't, I've got it. I can zoom in.
Nope.
If you need me to zoom in, let me know. I'm
Yep.
happy to do that.
We'll make it work.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I can see what I'm looking. So,
Okay, Deborah, are you doing the presentation for this request, or is your sign vendor coming on as well?
No, I am. Thank you. And thank you very much for those few moments of exhilarating technical terror about, oh my God, is it my phone? Where's that email? Can I join some other way? So wasn't really sure what was happening, but thanks for getting us back up and running. I think you guys have seen this before in October when the landlord and Shannon did a great job to go through the plans and have okayed these 2 signs or all the signs for the 4 units. I think what nobody contemplated at that juncture was that someone might take 2 units and therefore not need 2 signs a few feet apart from one another. So I think you guys did a great job to preserve the clean lines and the look and the image of Farmington. I know that when we walked by and Shannon, we were standing out in front with Bruce and the landlord, I queried, is there any way that we can get 1 sign instead of 2 redundant signs and make it somewhat cleaner and simpler? And you suggested that this might be an appropriate line of play to propose to planning and zoning. So therefore, having done that, we've put together this drawing of the sign, which is exactly the same as what you approved for the 2 smaller signs. And it's under the 40 square feet at 37.9. And I think that a larger sign is a little bit easier to see. I guess I'll speak as a new business owner to the area. I haven't had a business in Farmington since the late 80s, but happy to come back. It's a tight corner coming down 6 heading towards Bristol, right under the canal sign. And I think that having a slightly larger sign would be probably more feasible for people to see it and certainly not apply the brakes quickly as they're pulling in. So hoping that you guys will give me permission to have 1 sign instead of 2 redundant signs and make a slightly cleaner look to the building.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners. Bob,
No questions. It makes perfect sense to me.
thank you. Okay. Peter,
No questions for me. Thank you for the presentation.
Bruce,
And no questions for me either.
Mike,
No questions as well.
and Dave.
I don't know if I missed it. Is there any lighting on this sign?
No.
No. Okay. That's my only question. Thank you.
Yeah, there is an existing wall pack on the building that, and this matches the entire, how the layout is for the entire building. There's another mirror wall pack on the other half of the building. The sign happens to be under that wall pack. Just how it's centered between the 2 windows.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. The lighting was going to be my one question. It does keep it a simple look. It is easier to see. Okay, I think all my questions have been answered. Thank you. Are we ready to vote, everyone? Okay, I need a motion and a second, please.
Okay, I'll make the motion to accept the Metal Supermarkets Deborah Sisitsky application for new attached building sign for the property located at 170 Scott Swamp Road, CR zone.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay, and our last item for new business is WC Farmington LLC Big Sky Fitness. We have someone in the room or
Brian Panico has called in online for us, and I've
Okay.
just got to here we go.
no problem.
That's right. Presentation drawing up. Brian, are you there?
Yep. Thank you very much, Shannon. For the record, Brian Panico with Cole Civil and Survey, here on behalf of Big Sky Fitness. So this is an existing site. We went through a few years back, application to change us to a Big Sky Fitness. There were some improvements done at that point. Everything is now complete, and as they're kind of transitioning and moving forward, there's an existing clay tennis court on the site, and it is not used. And so at this time, they would like to kind of transfer that from being a tennis court into just some additional parking as they need some additional parking. So in removing the tennis court and the fencing and all of the kind of surrounding impervious area, we'll be replacing that with 18 new parking spaces. Area of development is about 0.42 acres. So the site as a whole is 10.5 acres, and we're only proposing the modification to basically the area highlighted in purple there, which is less than half an acre. We've added 1,678 square feet of additional interior landscaping. You can see that kind of represented in those parking islands. And most of those areas were areas of impervious surface that now we're turning into pervious landscape area. Also proposing to add 5 new shade trees and a bunch of other landscape plantings in those islands as well, just to improve the overall look of the parking areas, particularly up against the building there. We've also looked at this from a storm drainage perspective. So while the tennis court was considered impervious surface, that being said, the areas with that kind of hatched green dotting throughout, those were areas of impervious surface that we are now making pervious or grass. And so we've reduced the actual impervious coverage of the site by a little over 3,000 square feet. And in recent change from the previously submitted plans, kind of where Shannon's cursor is there is now a water quality depression. Originally, we had those in the landscape islands, and the landscape islands as little low points. We've since modified that so that in the event that little water quality depression does in fact overflow from stormwater runoff, it will basically overflow and be directed to flow toward the catch basin toward the east, the existing catch basin to the east in the parking lot. So overall, the site, which had kind of limited low impact design and water quality features, basically we've now updated and improved upon that, reducing directly connected impervious surface, which is the kind of the main goal of the new stormwater quality manual. Soils in the area are hydraulic rating of B, so they're moderately well infiltrating. So between the little pre-treatment strip just before the basin at the edge of the parking lot, and then this small depression to provide water quality and try to infiltrate some of that water, we feel this is a good design strategy. And again, a low impact design strategy instead of just adding a couple more catch basins and piping everything straight to the wetlands and the water course. Again, overall, the site and the use aren't changing. So this is literally just an additional 18 parking spaces and some improved stormwater treatment. Now, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Okay, thank you. Bob, any questions?
just during the construction phase, I'm assuming we're going to have some protection of the wetlands and the waterways and all that with catch basin protection.
Correct. So the surrounding catch basins in the parking lot will have inlet protection devices, silt sacks and whatnot throughout, just so that obviously as they're tearing out the existing tennis court and moving all that material off site and bringing everything in, everything stays protected, correct?
And then is everything getting removed or is it getting recycled on site?
So the tennis court portion, since it is a clay court, will likely have to be removed off-site as the material, effectively wouldn't be good for either fill or topsoil material.
All right. And do we have an estimated amount of how much that is?
Do some quick math for you. Typically, they're only about 4 to 6 inches thick of the clay material itself. So do some quick math for you. Short answer is no, I don't know exactly how much it would be, but it shouldn't be very much. 6 times.
Do you have a projected timeline or how long this is going to take?
My understanding is that they would like to get this done as soon as possible. I know that they kind of just finished getting just about everything else on site wrapped up. We just did a bunch of as-built locations out there for everything. So I think this is more or less, I don't want to say that it would end up being a rush for them, but I know that they're anxious to be able to start doing it. I know that they could use and will utilize the parking.
Okay. I'm good from there.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Peter?
No questions for me at this time.
Okay. Bruce?
No new questions, huh?
Mike?
I guess my only question is, do you plan on doing this construction during your business hours? I know from driving by that, yeah, you guys could probably use the parking spaces because it's always so packed. Do you plan on doing it before, after, during, and would that cause any issues for people who use the gym?
I think just given the hours of operation, I think that a lot of the work would likely have to occur kind of simultaneously, especially just to get it done in a kind of timely and efficient manner. But what I will say is I think that kind of the way we've generally tried to set this up, we're trying to minimize the impacts to the existing parking lot as much as possible. So essentially the 3 parking spaces where you would enter or exit this new parking area, that area that would be eliminated in the northwest there. I would foresee that as almost becoming like a small staging area right up top there. So, they could bring equipment onto the site. They could literally back a truck up in that parking area and be loading a truck. So I don't foresee a lot of adverse impact to the existing traffic, especially since this isn't like the type of use where people are only going to be in there for 5 minutes at a time and very frequently kind of in and out. People generally are there for, a decent amount of time. And I think overall, just with some small kind of safety measures, it shouldn't have too negative of an impact on the actual experience of the gym goers.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. And Dave?
Hi, yeah, thanks. Just verifying that you're not going to add any lighting to this area?
Correct. We have not proposed any new additional lighting in the area.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I will say that most of my questions have been asked. Thank you for the presentation and the visuals. It's very helpful. Okay, any other questions or concerns? Anything come up? Councilors? Okay, commissioners, excuse me. Okay, I need a motion and a second, please.
Okay, I make the motion that we accept the application for WC Farmington LLC, Big Sky Fitness, 94 Brickyard Road, application for site plan modification for the removal of the existing tennis court and fencing for proposed new parking area CR zone.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? And the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now, we'll pause for a minute while we get ready for the, we're moving on to the public hearing section. We do have 2 public hearings. Just a couple reminders of how this is going to work. We'll have our presentation, commissioners will ask questions, and then we'll open to public comment. Always appreciate everyone's public comment. If we also respect everyone's time, and so if you have a comment, we appreciate it, keep it to about 5 minutes or less. And if you are going to say share the same experiences or the same feelings as a previous person, you can just say, I agree with the previous comment. So we just want to make sure everyone is fresh-faced and ready to make a decision. So with that, we will get ready to start our first public hearing. That is the Farmington Land Trust, which actually one member is recusing himself, so this will be a 5-member vote tonight.
I'd like to recuse myself because of my association with the land trust.
Okay, come on up.
I'm Kate Grady Benson, Farmington Land Trust. My address, do you need my address as well?
You can use the business address. So
Okay.
you're, yeah.
119 Copper Mine Road, Unionville. I'm here representing the Land Trust on this project. We are a nonprofit that conserves open space in town, and we have 70 properties at this time. And one of the main tenets of our mission statement is that we steward our properties. And this property that we're going to be talking about tonight, back in 2001, we put a fishing pier in it that was accessible for people with disabilities. And since that time, the river has decided that it shouldn't be there. And so we have been looking at that for the past 4 years, actually, to make some changes. And in that process, we started to work with the Wild and Scenic Association, which is the National Park Service. The Farmington River in that section is designated as wild and scenic, and so it comes under a lot more scrutiny. The pier, over this time period, we've decided that we're going to need to remove the pier that exists and restore the bank to its original form. And then given that our original mission was to provide access to people with disabilities, we're proposing to put a boardwalk with a cantilevered viewing platform a little bit further up on the trail that exists there. So we're hoping that that this will allow both people, all people of all abilities, to be able to access the river and nature. We've been working with New Horizons on the design of the plan for that boardwalk, and also a lot of other entities in town. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Matthew Sanford from SLR Consulting. He will be doing the presentation.
Thank you, Kate. Good evening. For the record, it's Matthew Sanford, professional wetland scientist, registered soil scientist with SLR. We're located in Cheshire, Connecticut, Glastonbury, Connecticut, and New Haven, Connecticut. So we got 3 offices. As Kate alluded to, we were retained to take a look at opportunities to restore the riverbank to a more natural condition than what currently is out there today, as well as provide opportunities for new observation platform along the trail. Shannon, next slide, please. Just to give everyone, and I'm sure many of the folks in the audience as well as on the commission have probably been onto the site But for reference, located at the end of Railroad Avenue Extension cul-de-sac is the kind of the way you'd access this Farmington Land Trust property. As you move west along the trail, in highlighted in yellow is the actual property, and you can see it's made of several parcels, islands on the Farmington River itself. The flow in this particular location, the Farmington River, is from basically north to south or west to east, flowing towards Unionville Bridge there. What you see in the green line represents the area where we're looking to place the new observation boardwalk and platform. Just to the west of that is the area where the existing fishing platform exists, basically at the confluence of Unionville Brook and the Farmington River. This is a good representation to see why the fishing platform doesn't work where it currently does. You can see it's on the outside bend of the Farmington River. So when you have large flood events, all the debris and floodwaters move directly to that direction of the bank and want to scour out anything that's in that location. And then during the wintertime, when you have ice jams, again, as flow is moving down that river, it wants to move it to the outside bend of the river. And what that causes is potential dislodgement of the existing concrete blocks that hold the fishing pier in place, also dislodgement of the metal railings that are currently there. They've been knocked over a few times, and the Farmington Land Trust has had to reset those. So next slide, please. We have, several project purposes. I think we've gone through those this evening already. Obviously, here the meeting goals is to introduce the project to this commission, understand how the project will be constructed, and what are the implications on the floodplain and floodway, because that's what we're here for. It's a special permit because we have a structure that we're proposing in the Farmington River floodplain as well as the floodway. Next slide, please. Existing conditions. This is really, again, a twofold project. They're almost considered separate projects from other regulatory bodies. This is the existing fishing platform location located right there. It consists of two structures. There's an existing concrete block structure with a metal railing on it that's more landward. And then what at some point in time, the town, or I should say the Farmington Land Trust did, was add additional blocks out into the river to try to deflect waves and energy away from those original concrete blocks. So that's why you see two different block systems at this fishing platform. You can see it's accessed really by two gravel trails along the paved section of the Farmington River Trail. This is showing the closest one, which is a little steeper, which is not handicap accessible, but the one that goes off a little flatter, as Shannon's pointing out, is more handicap accessible. It still has some areas that are greater than 5%, but is considered somewhat handicap accessible. Next slide, please. Some photos of the fishing platform area. The upper, or I should say the left-hand one, is showing that steeper entrance from the trail down to the fishing platform. Here, the other photos are showing actual photos of the fishing platform. You see the metal rail, the concrete blocks, the secondary blocks out into the water that help deflect waves and velocity away from the fishing platform. Next set of photos. This is kind of showing you the existing conditions of the platform. The middle photo, I think, says it's best. That's about a 2-foot dip. That's how much erosion has occurred. That gravel has been lost behind those blocks. And so that's a consistent battle for Farmington Land Trust. They can fill that in next week, and if we get a big rain event with a flood, that gravel then gets washed out. So it is a maintenance issue from a long-term perspective, and hence the reason for removing the structure and replacing with natural boulders and restoring the bank back to a natural condition. Next slide, please. These are just the showing you the gravel paths. This is the gravel path that is more handicap accessible than the steeper one. Next slide. Here's the regulated resources on the property. I think for this particular commission, the most important ones are the ones colored in red. That is the floodway. The orange is the 100-year floodplain, and the yellow is the 500-year floodplain, I believe. But the orange and red is what you should be paying attention to from the activities associated with the project. The blue is ordinary high water mark of the river. It's the federal wetland line. And then the green is the state wetland line. Next slide, please. We're also located, or the property is located in the aquifer protection area, the Charles W. House well field owned by Connecticut Water Company. You can see in the green hatch, we are well outside of that well field. We have no anticipated impacts or adverse impacts to the well field based on removal of the fishing platform and or construction of a new observation platform on boardwalk. Next slide, please. So here we'll walk through proposed conditions at the existing fishing platform that will be turned into a natural bank. What's represented here is in blue, you're seeing activities below ordinary high water mark. So the removal of that secondary or outer or waterward most set of blocks, those will be taken out. The fill between those blocks will be taken out. And then eventually that next set that's on the landward side in green and some of the gravel will all be removed from that section of the riverbank. On the right-hand side, you see a cross section of what will be replaced. We'll be replacing that with natural boulder revetment. The rocks will be sizable. You're looking at anywhere from 48 to 60-inch diameter rocks, so large rocks. Because of the velocities that we have out here, our water resource engineers had to design and size those rocks in accordance with the velocities that are associated with flood events for this particular outward bend of the river. Those boulders will be kind of cantilevered, as you can see, stepped back. We're not anticipating to put any railings back on this. We do have a lip, as you can see on the upper boulder, that would prevent if somebody had a wheelchair or some type of apparatus with wheels from actually going over those rocks. It would stop it like a bumper. There is, and then the existing wide gravel path that's out there today would be actually decreased to about 6 foot in width. And the areas that were once gravel, stone gravel, that are going to be removed will be naturally vegetated. So you can see that on the left-hand side where the path will actually be reduced right there and narrowed to have folks still be able to view from that location, still be able to fish from that location. So we're not losing that ability to fish from that particular location. Next slide, please. So this is part number 2. Okay, so if we're removing the handicap accessibility component of the fishing platform, the Farmington Land Trust still wanted to provide an opportunity for people with disabilities to be able to view the river. We've moved that opportunity slightly downstream at a location where it doesn't require a lot of tree clearing. With working with the National Park Service, one of their concerns, obviously being wild and scenic, was to minimize the amount of tree clearing that would go on along this particular riparian zone of the river. So we found a location that made more sense and minimizes that tree clearing. So the tree clearing that we'll have to go, and we'll go through some photos shortly. You'll notice that there's very small saplings. The larger trees that you see in those photos would remain. In yellow on the left-hand side is representing the boardwalk section. That is approximately 80 foot long boardwalk section that's 6 foot wide. The observation platform that extends out over the water is 16 by 16 observation platform. So that cantilevers out over the water. So it gets folks out over the water so they can look upstream and or downstream at this particular location. It'll attach directly to the Farmington Trail. We've been in coordination with the Connecticut DOT rails as well as the town to provide permission to access that portion of the trail, because part of that area that you see at the very end of the boardwalk is not owned by the Farmington Land Trust. Next slide, please. Here's some existing condition photos. So the left-hand photo is if you were standing at the actual on the trail itself, looking out towards the river. You can see the CBOID. There's a stake there. That is where the boardwalk would tie into the existing trail and would head directly out to the river. Notice the small sapling trees. The large tree to the right would remain. The large trees to the left would remain. Again, this is only a 6 foot wide boardwalk. In terms of equipment to be used to actually install it, it doesn't require large equipment. It would actually be skid steer size, bobcat size equipment to actually install it. Hence the reason we can keep the larger trees in place and not have to clear those. The second middle photo is actually looking from the trail, the gravel trail. So the river, it would be behind you in the photo. You're looking back up towards the paved trail in that photo. And again, notice that we've got a nice, probably 10 to 12 foot wide clearing of smaller vegetation in that area where we can place the boardwalk. The photo on the right-hand side shows you what the existing trail would be, what the boardwalk would go across that. And the boardwalk is set at an elevation that's approximately 7.6 feet above that trail. So you can still walk under that, that boardwalk. You could potentially bike under the boardwalk as well. But mostly we're looking at pedestrian walking under that boardwalk. Next slide. Here's some photos with the leaf off, so it makes it a little more clear what it looked like in wintertime. Again, you can see the arrows pointing on the left-hand side from the trail out, and this one pointing right at the trail. And you can see we've also on the bank itself of the river, we've selected an area that requires minimal tree clearing. There's a nice gap there that allows us to get out over the river in that particular location. Next slide. Again, it's kind of important to point out the resource areas here. I think the ones to pay particular attention to is the red line and the orange line. That's your limits of the floodplain or floodway and floodplain from the river itself. We will have some piers and piles associated with the new structure in the floodway and the floodplain. We'll get into that in a minute. This gives you a nice overview. I think this is important because this is when we had our pre-application meeting with town staff. And one of the concerns with the boardwalk was whether or not it would be wide enough to convey 2 wheelchairs at one time. And so in this graphic, it shows that 2 wheelchairs can be, one could be going into the boardwalk, one could be coming out at the same time. So we've designed it so that that has that ability. This gives a good indication of kind of larger flat 16 by 16 platform that cantilevers over the river on the right-hand side right there. And I think we're ready for the next slide. So what is the new platform and boardwalk going to consist of? As I said, it's 6 foot wide. The actual construction would include concrete piers that are placed below the soil surface. In some cases, we have concrete footings based on some of the calculations our structural engineers ran to understand what the velocities are during a 100-year storm, what the horizontal forces are during a 100-year storm. So if you have debris coming down the river from upstream, what would be those forces on the piers themselves? Would they break? Would they stay in place? We've designed them for the 100-year storm to stay in place. The kind of what the structure is made out of, besides the concrete piers, the piers themselves. So concrete footing, and then you'd have a timber pier on top of that, most likely pressure treated timber framing, and then decking would be some type of composite material, some long-lasting composite material. Railings will likely be pressure treated, and the actual fencing, or what shows in this picture, is leggy fencing. It's a metal fencing. It's an epoxy coated fencing, long lasting, allows you to see right through it, so it doesn't obstruct your view, which is important. And you'll see a rendering later on that kind of shows what this is all going to look like when it comes together. Other things that I would point out here is that the FEMA elevation at this location. So there's 2 elevations. Well, there will be 2 elevations right now, based on the current FEMA mapping. The elevation of the floodplain at this location is 198. That will be changing this year. New FEMA mapping that they've redone all the FEMA mapping for the town of Farmington and the Farmington River will be increasing that elevation by 1 foot. So the new floodplain elevation at this location will be 199, NAVD 88, and will not be 198 anymore. We've designed the boardwalk, and we'll get into it in a minute with some graphics, to be 4.25 feet above that 199 floodplain elevation. So the low chord of the lowest chord, the lowest member of the actual boardwalk platform will be 4.25 feet above that. I will say that the cantilevered section is a little different. I talked a little bit about the timber framing for most of the boardwalk, but when you get out to a cantilevered section from the structural integrity, you have to change to steel columns as opposed to timber columns, and also the actual framing will be all steel as well, so they can handle the cantilevered load that would be on there. Next slide, please. This is basically a profile of what our cross section of what the boardwalk / cantilever section looks like. We didn't put the rails on here so that it's clear, just so you can see the different members of the structures and things of that nature. But we are outside the ordinary high water mark of the river, so this will all be on the actually upland areas, with the exception of the first footing, which will be in the state wetland. It's not a very poorly drained type soil. It's an alluvial, it's a well-drained soil. We did borings out here to figure out where bedrock was. Bedrock is very shallow at this particular location, and it makes sense as you get towards the river. And if you've been along this bank of the river, you'll notice big rocks jutting out of the soil. As you move further away from the river and up towards the trail, you have more fill, so your bedrock gets deeper. And in those cases, you likely will not be on bedrock. For the footings will be pinned to bedrock where it's shallow enough. As areas that are deeper, those will be sonotubes down to 42 to 48 inches, and concrete will be poured into those. But I think here important, as you can see in the black, that there's some couple black horizontal lines. Shannon, I don't know if you could point out the elevation 199, which is going to be the new floodplain elevation there. You can see how it goes across, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 columns. Yeah, 5 columns that'll actually be in the floodplain. And as you can see, those columns are really minimal in width. They're about 8 inches in diameter. This also shows you the low chord of the platform. The platform will actually have the lowest chord, 203.25. Then the boardwalk slightly higher from that floodplain. So again, important to note, we're above the floodplain with the actual boardwalk and platform. Next slide, please. So this is what it will look like when it's constructed. We've shown you in orange and red the 2 current FEMA lines, or what will be. The red is the current FEMA line, the orange is what will be proposed or what will be effective this year. Again, this kind of gives you an idea of what the leggy fencing looks like, and the rails, as well as keeping the trees as much as possible out there along it. The vegetation there will be herbaceous vegetation that grows underneath the boardwalks, but specifically really as you get closer to the river, because you're really getting high. You're about 10 feet, 12 feet above the river, in some cases 14 actually at the observation platform. I think next slide. Most importantly, the reason why we combine the 2 projects is that if we were just proposing the boardwalk and platform, we'd have a net fill in the floodplain unless we were going to dig somewhere around it. By removing the existing fishing platform, which has a considerable amount of fill, close to 240 cubic yards, that's like 12 triaxle fulls of material, if you think about it. That's going to come out, right? And then obviously we're replacing that with some natural boulders, and then we have the small piles that are going to support the boardwalk that go into the fill number. So when you compare our approximate cut of 240 cubic yards to our approximate fill for the proposed improvements of 34 cubic yards, you end up with a net cut in the floodway and floodplain of 206 cubic yards. So restoring the floodplain volume back to this part of the river with this project. Next slide. Next slide. Questions? Yeah, and I think that concludes the presentation this evening. Happy to answer any comments the commission may have.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, commissioners, we'll start with our questions. Bob?
Okay. Great presentation. Thank you. I'm just trying to wrap my head around everything, so bear with me. The stone wall that's going to be cantilever and not the one, is that going to be dry fit, or is that going to be mortared in, or how?
Yeah, so it's all dry stack stone, because you're using very large material.
Right.
Actually, the mortar would actually be frowned upon by DEP Fisheries Division. They don't like to have us using mortar in areas that are aqueous that it could be released into the river. So all dry.
Okay, that's why I was asking. You mentioned that this is going to be a lot of bobcat work or skid steer work, to be correct. And it's going to be 6 feet wide, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. How are you going to get the concrete back there? How are you going to get the piers back there? How are you going to get the steel beams back there?
Sure. So two things. You have two different projects. I didn't really talk about what equipment would be used for the bank stabilization. Of bobcat skid steer can't handle 6 foot diameter
Correct.
stone. So that'll be a larger machine, excavator type machine that would walk down. The existing gravel path is probably about 15 feet wide now. That's out there. So that would be the main access down to the actual fishing platform. A big machine would remove the concrete blocks. I didn't mention this, but the concrete blocks are going to be reutilized or at least taken by the Public Works Department for reuse at some point down the line for other projects. The boardwalk itself, though, a lot of these boardwalks, trail, if you've been on different trails that have these crazy suspension bridges and things of that nature, most of that stuff is actually constructed with really small equipment because it's hard to get into sites. Based on our structural engineers who have done quite a few of these type boardwalks, the actual concrete is going to be done. It could be pumped in from the trail itself because the trail is not that far. So they can just pump it in. They'll do the forms, the fittings with a small machine. There's not going to be a lot of excavation because of shallow bedrock. You're only going down 2 feet in some areas, and you're going to be then doing your form and then pinning. The actual steel beams aren't going to be very heavy. They're only H beams that are being placed out there. They could use a small excavator if they wanted to. We're not limiting them to bobcats and smaller equipment, but we are trying to limit them from having to have big swinging equipment where they have to take down a bunch of trees.
And that's why I'm asking. Like,
Yeah.
I know you had mentioned 6 feet, and the swing is gonna.
Yeah, and so in the section where the gravel trail isn't currently, so up above it between the paved trail and the gravel trail, we're looking at smaller sized equipment. Down below where those steel beams are going to be, they actually could swing something in there because it's already open and it's on the gravel trail basically.
Gotcha.
That's where you're doing the cantilever. That's where you're starting your cantilever. So it'll be a combination of equipment.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, the Land Trust's goal, along with the National Park Service, is to minimize the tree clearing as much as possible.
Excellent. Okay. And state and federal permitting has already been.
So So interestingly, for federal permits, we will need a self-verification notification form, general permit number 12 for bank stabilization. That will be going in this week to the Corps of Engineers. We do not need a DEP permit. There's no state money currently allocated to this project. If there was state money allocated, then we would be going for an FMC. So the permits that will be required for this project is the local wetlands, which we've already received from the town, your permit, as well as the Army Corps.
Okay. And then I'm assuming that you want to try and get this done during the summer when the river's at its lowest. Or...
Yeah, ideally, you'd like to do this work sometime in August. September is the best time when flows are at the lowest. It's easier for a contractor to be working out along a river, specifically really the fishing platform area, because that's the area that actually jets out into the river. The boardwalk work could be done during the fall into the winter if it had to be.
That brings up a good point. How long is this anticipated?
So if I had to put a time frame on the fishing platform removal and then reestablishment of a natural bank, probably 2 weeks. It's only 50 linear feet of bank they're restoring. It's not very big. The actual boardwalk / platform area, you probably look at, closer to a month and a half.
So you got 2 months worth of work. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then somebody's going to be on site to oversee this. And
yeah, as part of the conditions of approval from the wetlands permit, they required that a structural engineer be there for the key milestones. So pouring of the footings, making sure the rebar, make sure it's being pinned correctly, construction is being completed. And they also required a wetland scientist to be out there, or I should say water resource engineer be out there for when the placement, the construction of the actual bank stabilization area was being constructed, to make sure that it conforms to the plans and it's being constructed correctly.
Okay.
So yes, those are already conditions in the wetlands permit.
Excellent. And then you've been working with engineering and basically working with them to make sure it's all.
Yeah, so there was, when we had our initial pre-application meeting with engineering, one of the comments that I think Bruce had brought up was protection of membrane. They were concerned about water getting in between the joists, and so we have a rubber membrane that we're putting between the two to help keep that moisture from actually forming in there. So that's part of the project in terms of implementing that. So yeah, suggestions that were made by engineering. One of the other ones that was brought up is, as you move further up slope, your distance from your low chord to your ground elevation decrease significantly. So, are we going to be able to reestablish vegetation there very quickly? Probably not. So wood chips were added in that location for stabilization. And then over time, as seed and et cetera can get adapted to those conditions, they'll eventually vegetate that area. So that was another item that engineering had suggested and that we incorporated.
Excellent. Okay. All right, so I think I'm good for right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pete?
Thank you very much for the presentation. I was wondering how far out from the existing tree line does the boardwalk extend approximately?
So if I had to, and this will be a guess because I don't know where the exact trees line up. I would assume that is roughly about 8 to 10 feet out into the river itself, because that's a 16 by 16 platform. The trees start about the blue line, just on the would be the west side of that blue line. So if you're cut in half, you're looking at about 10 feet out.
Okay. And I'm sorry, also from the other end, from the entry point of the boardwalk ramp coming in from the trail, the paved trail.
So no, what was the question related to that part again now?
I guess just how far is that distance? Like how much boardwalk are you going to be seeing from the tree line to the?
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
This is a good picture here. I would say that the boardwalk would probably start right about that wood stake. Yeah, right where she's pointing there. Because that's level. That's fairly level at that location out to that point. The boardwalk may be a little past that stake towards the paved trail, but that's about where we start. I also didn't mention, and I should have, because this was another engineering comment, now that I remember. We're also placing a bollard at the end of the boardwalk so that ATVs or any other type of off-road vehicle cannot drive onto the boardwalk. And that's a removable bollard. If for some reason maintenance had to be done out there, it could be done. So that was also added to the plan. I'm sorry, I failed to mention that.
And then in terms of the platform itself, what's sort of like the occupancy capacity of it? And do you know if there's any plan to have seating on the platform or not?
There isn't any plans currently for seating on the platform. It's strictly standing observation at this point. Maybe down the line, Farmington Land Trust, as money becomes available, funds become available, they could add benches. In terms of the rating and the loading, you could, from what our structural engineers tell us, you could probably pile 3 cars on top of that, and it wouldn't go anywhere. So it's very conservatively designed. Even a lot of the footings, we've over designed them so that they stay there and it doesn't move. So.
And then in terms of the place on the paved trail that the entry point is going to be, can you describe sort of what the I know in that section of the trail there are points of residential properties abutting the trail. Do you know sort of what that looks like at that point in the trail in terms of that?
Let's see, from the aerial, yeah, we have to go to, I don't know if I have any photos. So yeah, it's going to be right to the, so that's the fishing platform. So yeah, right about there is going to be where the boardwalk would, to a little bit to the right. Yeah, a little further right, probably. Yeah, right about there. It's where the boardwalk would come. You have, I believe those are either condominium or apartments or townhouses that actually go up the hill. There's a hill rises,
right,
well vegetated during the summer, well screened. There's actually some trails that actually come back from those apartments down to the trail so that those folks can actually access the trail. I don't know, I don't believe their view is going to change much. If anything, they'll have actually more of a view to the river because you're going to clear some of the saplings out there. But I don't have any photos directly from those residences out that way.
Great. Well, that's all the questions I have at this time. Thank you.
Bruce?
Thank you very much for your presentation. Very thorough. I think my fellow commissioners have asked all the questions I had in mind.
Okay, thank you. And Dave?
Yes, thanks for the presentation. This is more of an observation platform rather than fishing. Is that correct?
Yeah, Dave, given the height, usually for platforms to be considered fishing, they have to be 8 foot or less over the water. We're at 14. So yes, this is considered really observation platform. Hence the reason we're still maintaining the fishing area down below. We don't want to lose that component for others that do utilize this area currently for fishing, but this is considered an observation platform.
Okay. And are there plans to close off the pathway for a short time while it's being done?
Yeah, so there will be signage. You know, one of the things that we also obviously have received permission from the town to utilize the existing trail for our construction access. And one of the things that the town required was that there's going to have to be signage and there's going to have to be somebody, a flagger out there while any equipment needs to go from Railroad Avenue Extension to the gravel trail. And then at the gravel trail, there'll be signage saying posted that the trail is closed for use.
Great. All right. Yeah, thanks. It's nice to know they're going to fix the damage that's been done by the old spot. And this will be a nice addition. Thank you.
Okay, and my questions mostly have been asked, except for one. Is there going to be any sort of signage on the trail directing people, or is it going to be considered that it will be obvious enough?
I don't know if Farmington Land Trust has any ideas for signage, but it's going to be very obvious. You're going to see it as soon as you're going to see it once you get up in this area. But there's always opportunities in the future for signage, I would think.
Okay.
Oh, sure, you could absolutely.
Just in response to that question, we do plan on having a kiosk at the entrance. We have a high school student who's going to do a capstone project and create that for us. And we'll also have a sign. We'll have signs on the actual boardwalk, safety signs about, no partying, no, all those kind of things. And then we'll also have a sign for those who have donated to the project at a certain level. So that there'll be one down by the river and then one up at the top.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now let's open up the floor to anyone in the room who would like to please come up and share your comments or questions. And no one's getting up. Okay, so if no one in the room has any questions or comments, Shannon, can we look online?
Sure. If anyone has called in online to offer comment on the Farmington Land Trust project for the boardwalk, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom. You'll be acknowledged to address the commission. And we do have Emily Kellini. So Emily, you should be able to unmute your microphone. Please provide your name and address and the comment you wish to share with the commission then, please.
Sure. My name is Emily Collini. I'm at 30 High Street. I am affiliated with the Land Trust. I'm a board member, but I wanted to just come on the meeting quickly to voice my support for the project and my enthusiasm that this will really be a great benefit to the town. It will help lots of residents. And I encourage, the commissioners to consider the project carefully. But I do think there's a lot of potential here, and the river seems a little underutilized at times, and this would be a great opportunity to get people down there. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And then Liz Bennett, you should be able to unmute your microphone if you'd like to address the commission, please? Same name, address, and your comment for the commission.
Good evening. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Liz Bennett. I live at 46 Mountain Road. I am associated with the Farmington Land Trust as a member of the board. And I would just like to speak briefly in support of this project. I'm very impressed with the depth of the research and the plan that's in place. And I think it would be a boon for Farmington, all residents. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for calling in. And Francie Brown, you should be able to unmute your microphone. There you go. Thank you.
Yes, hi, my name is Francie Brown Holmes. I live at 126 Main Street. I also am affiliated with the Land Trust. I'm chair of the board, and you know, there's the two parts that we've been talking about. One is the remediation part. It's so important for us as a land trust to steward the land. So I'm in favor of that. I think additionally, though, the whole platform, the observation boardwalk and platform, and the accessibility that people will be able to have now is so important. And honestly, it's thrilling to see this project. And I'd like to thank Matt for your fantastic presentation. It explains it really well. So you can tell by my comments, I'm very much in favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, has anyone else called in to offer comment regarding the Farmington Land Trust project for the boardwalk? Please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom. Okay, Madam Chair, there are no other hands raised. We do have written comment that came in that I'd like to at least enter into the record. We have a letter for the Lower Farmington River and Salmon Brook Wild and Scenic Committee. And let's see, I know these are all in support. I'm going to try and cut to the chase here. Regarding the fishing pier, was concerned about the location, the bend and the confluence. Use the decision to remove the fishing pier and to restore the riverbank to a more natural state as excellent. Installing an ADA accessible viewing platform in a different, more stable location will be an added success to this situation. So there's that letter for the record. And Farmington River Watershed Association also, again, in support. Cut to the chase on this. These have all been formally entered into the record. FRWA supports the ADA accessible viewing platform proposed further down river in a more stable location. The platform will provide excellent river views while preserving the integrity of the riverbank and riparian buffer. And I believe the paragraph above is their support on the removal of the existing fishing platform, similar to the Wild and Scenic Committee designation letter that we received. And New Horizons letter of support. Writing letter of support, viewing platform project is proposed by the Land Trust, and it discusses that they take their residents on field trips and enjoy the ability to access the river.
Yeah, that's huge.
So yeah, that's very good. So, so anyhow, so those were the three letters that we've received for the record. Again, they've been formally entered into the record and were posted to the website along with the other documents. So with that, I'll just ask one more time if anyone else has called in online to offer comment regarding the application. Please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom. And again, no other hands raised.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions or comments? Bob?
Yeah, I just have one quick thing. Kate sparked my interest here. You mentioned a kiosk or something at the beginning, but that's not being presented here. Is that for future use? Is that something that we may see later on and not part of this project? Okay,
Yeah, if that comes in as part of a capstone or a scout project, then they, depending upon its more relevance, it'll either come before TPZ or before Wetlands Commission.
okay.
So.
Okay, that was it. Any other questions? Anything, Dave? Are you all set?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, and everyone's, so if we're all set, then let's close the public hearing on this issue. Okay, commissioners, any questions, discussion, any people want to say anything? Okay, do we know what we're voting on, and are we confident and ready to take a vote?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, if so, then I need a motion and a second.
Okay, I hereby make the motion that we accept the Farmington Land Trust LLC application for special permit and site plan review for the removal of fill/construction materials associated with the eroding fishing platform and the construction of a new accessible public observation platform and boardwalk at 8738 River Road, FPO zone.
Second.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions. The motion passes. Congratulations and good luck with the project. Okay,
It's gonna be a complex project.
yeah, it does. Now we need to go track down Mike.
Yeah, Mike's still labs.
Mike, yeah, why don't you just go track him down?
You gotta go get them. Thank you, Bruce.
Oh, good, we didn't get you too lost. No, we lost Bruce. We needed a total gain of 2, not net gain, excuse me. You know what I mean.
If anyone else needs a recess for a minute or two, we can do that.
Oh, no, you said that. Oh, I'm gonna use the restroom.
That's- My guess is the status.
Okay, thank you for everyone's patience. Okay, let's go on to our second public hearing of the evening. I'd like to open the issue of Carrier Development LLC. That would be you.
That's you. Yeah.
Come on
Come
down.
on.
Well, have decided I need to step up my presentation game. That would be step one. This definitely doesn't look as fancy as the other, but so what we're asking the commission.
Could you just give your name and?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is my first rodeo, so I apologize.
okay.
I'm Annie Carrier with Carrier Development. Need anything else?
Yes, your business address.
Sure. It's 413 East Street in Plainville.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Now you're all.
No, okay. Well, now my game is all off, so I'm not sure, but no. So what we're looking for is to increase the square footage of a custom home to be located on 112 Red Oak Hill Road. The zoning calls for 2,400 square feet. What we're asking for is 3,600 square feet. 3,600 square feet with an additional 1,000 square feet or so for a garage. The house right now, what we have shown on the screen is the proposed location. We still need to look it over with Bruce and Shannon, obviously, to make sure that everything conforms. But right now it sits about 170 feet off of the main road. It will share a driveway with 114 Red Oak Hill Road. The current driveway is going to be abandoned, and they will share a driveway, which I think will look nice. Really worked hard with that to make sure that it aesthetically was pleasing that way. I could ramble on, but I'm not really sure where else to go. This is the front elevation here. It's, you know, very similar to the Carrier look without, without having any other words to say. Bob was shaking his head yes. So, we do have a proposed client for it, and this is what they've customized for themselves. And so we needed to make sure that the commission was on board with the size and the location and such.
Annie, what development is this ultimately part of?
This is all part of Seven Stones, which is currently, we have 6 lots coming off of Copper Mine Road, which is Dominique's Court. And then 112 and 114 are both part of that same HOA. Just the way that it was approved, and for the frontage, we had to separate the back 2 lots, 112 and 114.
So the commission may remember, those that were on the commission remember reviewing Dominic's Court when it came through. It came through twice, once as a 4-lot subdivision and then once as a
We just like coming back.
it was a 6-lot subdivision.
I'll get it right the third time, I promise.
Keep coming.
Had so much fun the first time around.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if my lot lines are gonna show up here. There we go. So Dominique's Court with access off of Copper Mine with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots.
Yep.
And then these 2 additional lots, 114 and 112, which will have Red Oak Hill Road addresses because there is not access off of Dominique's Court, but it was permitted at the same time. So because the wording of our expanded home regulation, because it's not actually accessed off of Dominique's Court, then it doesn't have the benefit of being part of a roadway that has 6 or more new homes. So it's a nuance in the wording, so.
And that's why it's still part of the HOA fee for the other one, because it was all
Correct,
one.
because it's all part of the subdivision, so utilities are tied together. There's a few other things that are tied together, but yeah, you'll see shows up here. We've got the sanitary sewer, water line. There's a handful of things that come between the 2. There's conservation easements, there's stormwater, a few things. So they are tied together, but from a nuance in the regulation, it's separated because it's got the separate access drive. And then do you want to hear about the blasting at the same time?
Okay.
That's above my pay grade.
Hi there. John Bear, 21 Swimming Pool Road, Canton. Owner and operator John W. Bear Inc., Drilling and Blasting. At this time, we believe the blasting that's going to need to take place for 112 Red Oak will be confined to the foundation area only, roughly maybe a 30 by 50 area in the full depth of it, not so much necessarily in the garage where there's shorter footings. It'll be similar to the lots that we've done on Dominique's Court as far as duration, maybe 3 to 5 days of drilling is going to need to be taking place to get this to get the job done the way it looks right now anyways. There's still a little more looking maybe to do as far as making sure, water lines and stuff like that can get in there, but it wasn't scoured all over. Just looked at the immediate area to prove that there was some kind of blasting that needs to be done there. Of course, we'll follow all state and federal regulations like we do, and we'll follow all your town regulations in the process. We'll work with the 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. blast only in between there to try to lessen the burden on, everything that's going on in the area. This one here being set off the street a little bit farther is probably a little bit easier than some of the other ones and stuff like that. But all in all, still very typical of what we've been doing in that area. I guess the 2 other lots that we did on Dominique's Court should be very, very, very comparable. I guess probably at this point, if you got some questions, I can try to answer them for you.
Okay, and we're all set too? Okay, great. Well then, let's ask commissioners. Bob, questions?
Okay. John, are you only blasting foundation, or are you gonna have to bring in the utilities? Are the utilities already run?
Well, I'm not sure exactly where the utilities are brought to yet. That's the one thing we're up in the air on a little bit. We just, it'd be kind of tough to, we pick the foundation location. They dig some holes. They say, okay, we have ledge. It's hard to kind of just do all the discovery work at the beginning and figure out, what foot of this and what foot of that needs to be done outside that location. So it's really hard to say. I guess nobody really knows that answer right this second, other than we know that the foundation has ledge in it. Yeah.
Okay.
The utilities are going to come in, most of them, I believe, come in off the end of Dominique's.
Right. I
court.
just didn't know if
So
they were already run or not.
It does, so it's all run in Dominique's Court. I believe it's stubbed out because there's an easement. There's an utility easement that runs between lots 5, well, I'm gonna say 4 and 5. So I got lot numbers and street numbers, so this is gonna be messy. But it runs down along this shared property line and then along this north shared property line that I'm showing on the screen, and then comes down and drops into the house.
And if I remember correctly, now that we're looking at it like that, the majority of the utility work we did for Dominique's Court, the road work, was done in the first half or 2/3 of it. Then they ran out of ledge. So I believe they're at least going a ways without ledge. Hard, to tie in to 112, but it's hard to say exactly, what that answer would be.
Okay.
At this time anyways,
Okay.
So they might need it for like the sanitary manhole here.
That's what I'm thinking.
So some of the things like that. But they did drop off, as Mr. Bear indicated, at the cul-de-sac. Obviously, there's a knob here for the foundation, but that's you're going down a greater depth. Water, sewer, it may be, because the sewer we typically like to have come out of the bottom of the footing, so you can get service into the basement if they want it. So water, you got a little bit of flexibility with.
The other thing that might help you a little bit is I believe that we're talking, 7 or 8 feet of material, whether it's, 3 or 4 feet of dirt, 3 or 4 feet of rock, but depths that are, typical of a full foundation, not 20, 30, 40 feet or anything like that. Yeah.
That's what I was about to ask you. What depth did you hit rock at? Do you know?
I'm under the impression there's 3 to 4 feet of earth based on maybe 3 or 4 test holes in the foundation area that weren't drilled, they were dug.
Okay.
So in other words, 3 to 4 feet. So let's, of earth, and then 3 to 4 feet or so of ledge.
Ledge.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you got to blast down. Okay. And then when are you looking to do this? When is this
I
project?
believe we're looking at, sometime around the middle of July, sooner than not. If this moves along like we hope it does tonight, probably around the middle of July, maybe a little bit later.
All right.
Enough time to get the notification. So there is a 15-day notification that's required, so that would have to be done. And I don't know if the pre-blast surveys were already offered.
There's going to be one, well, actually, because we're getting ready to do 8.
Yeah.
Okay, we're adding one now because they're in the process of getting ready to turn that house over. So in the past, it was theirs and they declined it. Carrier did. So now we're going to have to do it, but we're having to do one for number 8. But I don't know if it might fall that we needed to do it for 112 also, but I don't know.
Okay.
As of right now, I think we're okay with the ones that we did because there's such a big gap going. We've got the one at 114 done already
Got it.
because of what we've done in the past, though. Yeah.
Are you, you're crushing the rock on site? You're going to use it as material, or are we hauling it out, or what are we doing with that? Do we have an estimated time of how long?
Annie, could you come to the microphone so we can pick you up? Sorry. And I'm sorry, which you've hauled it or crushed it?
We've hauled some of it to Dunning, and we've used some of it on site. So it really just, the crusher has not come on site to us yet, but we did ask for the permit just to avoid any confusion down the road.
So you are planning on crushing it there?
It's not our
So-
first choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but Shannon, where are we in relation to West District School? How far away is that?
Oh, a decent ways. And if they do it now, then we don't even have the buses and all that.
That's, so that's
Well, no, if
exactly where
they're
I'm
doing
going.
it during the
Okay.
summer, so,
Right, that's
we're
where
at
I'm
the
going with it.
far end, so we're at the New Britain Ave end.
Okay,
So here's, right, so this is actually the parking lot for the trail.
okay.
So that's the New Britain Ave. So this is where Copper Mine dead ends into New Britain Ave. And then we come all the way. And then here's West District.
West District,
So,
okay.
yeah, good half mile or so,
Okay.
whatever.
I'm just thinking the horn blasting and the kids and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, like I said, they've already done
Dominique's
3 or 4,
before,
so Dominique's, and that was during the school year.
Okay,
So,
all right.
see.
I am,
Hopefully all those kids are paying attention.
I know, right? I'm good for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Peter?
so it's about a mile,
About
Okay.
that.
about
Okay.
roughly, like as the crow, like literally
crow flies,
kind of
right.
thing. Yeah.
I think all my questions have been covered. Thank you.
Okay. Bruce?
I think the same thing, actually. Welcome back, Mr. Brennan.
Hi there.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
This is more of just a general question. When you blast, do you always put pads down, or is this something?
Yeah, so between the law side of it are the rubber blasting mats, so those will always be there. Plus, we take comfort with earth when the earth is sitting on there. So the combination of the two, but is what does the trick. But the law side of it is the rubber blasting mats. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
No questions.
Okay, and Dave, any questions?
None, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And my questions have also been asked. So it's time to open it up to the room. If anyone has a question or a comment they would like to make regarding the carrier's request for a large house and blasting, please come on up. Now is the time to speak. Okay, no one in the room. Anyone online, Shannon?
So if anyone's called in for the application for carrier for the expanded home and blasting at 112 Red Oak Hill Road, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom and you'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Again, if anyone's called in to offer a comment regarding the carrier development application for 112 Red Oak Hill Road, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom to address the commission. Madam Chair, there are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. And Shannon, have we received any correspondence or anything like that?
Thank you for asking. No, there's been no written correspondence on this application.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Last chance, last opportunity? Commissioners, nothing? Okay, then it is time to close the public hearing. And what do we think? Are we ready to take a vote, commissioners? Do we have any discussion we'd like to have? Any questions have all been answered? Okay.
Well, before we go to take the vote, just the size of the house, right? It's 50% bigger. I know we've done other ones. Is it representative with the other ones in the area? Because when we listed the other houses, it did seem to be substantially larger. Just thought we should touch on it before we call it a day here.
Mhm. I do see that it's, there's one that's 3,000 versus 3,600.
What was 114? Was it the large one
That's
too?
107 is listed here. 114 is actually
114 is
is-
smaller. So in the agenda review that was
Oh, that's-
included with the
Mm.
the packet and the information posted, this the two immediate homes adjacent are smaller, 114 and 106. The two homes across the street, one immediately across the street, 107 and 103, are larger homes. And I suppose you could take a look and determine whether or not it's comparable. But the agenda review is here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It also says that it's part of, it's consistent with the size and homes in Dominique's Court. And if it's under the same HOA,
That's really
it
what I
just
was
makes
going with.
comparable that it
Correct.
should be the same size.
No,
Even
those
though
are
the
all.
houses on either side of it are much smaller. I mean, the area.
It's part of the same HOA. I can't see, you know, you belong to our HOA, but you're not allowed to have that size house because it's doesn't fit. No.
Right.
Shannon, can you, about it, they indicated that it was set further back. About, I was gonna say on the aerial.
So unfortunately, but my property lines
You
aren't
can't.
showing up on
Okay.
the aerial.
No
So
problem.
it's less helpful
Okay.
spatially. So,
Mhm.
so here, these are the lots,
Okay.
right? This is lot 112.
Uh-huh.
The home is set back in where the writing is. So when you go
Okay.
back to, right, you can see there's kind of a dog leg to it.
Right. Okay.
So there's this like, here's
Oh, I
the
see.
dog leg to it. So it's back, you can see this is the roadway. This is the right of way for the road, and then this is the angle point. And that's where the house is, back on the angle point. And Commissioner St. Germain has his hand raised. So Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question about the, I remember them saying it was set back, what, 100 and something feet from the road, 115 feet or so, or?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
but the question I had was, it's a shared driveway? Is this driveway owned by the HOA?
It will fall under the HOA documents and requirements. I'll be honest, I can't remember the nuance as to whether or not the HOA will be plowing this driveway, and it's this shared portion. Or if it's shared between these two owners. We did work through that. I think it's all part of the HOA document. But it is, these two units are included with the other 6 as part of the HOA. So the rights and responsibilities are shared accordingly.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay. Clarify, help.
Yes. Yeah, I just thought we should touch it briefly.
No, that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that back up. Okay, if we're ready, we think we're ready to vote, then I need a motion and a second, please.
Okay, I make the motion that we accept the application for Carrier Development LLC, application for special permit and site plan review for expanded home in excess of 2,400 square feet living area and 3,200 square feet total area, and drilling, blasting, and rock crushing for a new single-family dwelling at 112 Red Oak Hill Road, R30 zone.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. You did just fine. You'll work on it. Practice.
Third time's a charm.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now it's Shannon's turn.
Now it's Shannon's turn. Now it's Shannon's turn. Let's see here. Okay. First up is our Riverside Cemetery in Farmington. So this is the cemetery that's off of Garden Street. And they are in for a formal application in front of our Inland Wetlands Commission. So I wanted to make all of you aware of the work that they are proposing to do. And I will bring up, let me see if I can drive over. Let's see here, Farmington Ave, I'm close. There we go. They basically, the interior roadway network is being repaved in kind. The exterior perimeter roadway is, it's also being repaved, but the Cemetery Association's working with us on some additional improvements that are needed. They wanted a slightly wider driveway. And with that, we've requested that they remove, there were designated paved leak-off areas for the stormwater. So if anyone's either walked or driven through the cemetery, you'll know that the driveways come down. There's a gradient on these driveways down and around this bend. And there's a paved leak-off, and then the same for this driveway down and around this bend and a paved leak-off, which results in a point discharge location for the stormwater runoff off into what is a fairly steep embankment off into the Farmington River. So what they're working on with this perimeter work is there's going to be, they're going to widen a little bit. They actually have room to widen the pavement edge a little bit in towards the cemetery, and they're going to widen in both directions. But there is room to work there, and then put a stone edge for the runoff on the river side. So it'll be a heavier riprap stone. There will be in the areas that are a little wider, less chunkier stone. Let's try like a 2-inch stone so that they can actually have a pull-off area, a few parking areas. What they're finding is unfortunately, people are parking on the cemetery side, and they really don't want that. They prefer the cars on the outside edge of that access drive. So they want to create a few formal areas. Those will be stone. And then again, they're adding a stone edge all along that perimeter. So that sheet flow, that runoff will be in a sheet flow fashion. At the two corners, as it's coming in and rounding that corner, that stone's going to be a little beefier, a little wider inherently. So we're hoping to stem some of the erosion concerns that we've had along that edge. There's no change in use, obviously. The roadways are staying in the same location. It's really, this is a maintenance project. Because of its proximity to the Farmington River, it has to come into wetlands because there is earth disturbance with this and some of the widening that's going on. I really didn't feel that it warranted a formal site plan application with you folks. So we were going to proceed on a staff level from a zoning standpoint, understanding that it has the formal review with inland wetlands for erosion control and that type of oversight. If there's questions, Evan Coles is here to help answer any questions, but I think I covered most of it. And obviously if there's concerns and you feel it should come for a permit, then let me know. But otherwise it won't come before you in a formal manner.
No, seems inland wetlands is the place to go. Those roads do need repaving. I do tend to walk down there, and yes, there's some big old potholes.
There are, yeah, the roadway edges, because, and again, because the cars are pulling off on the edge,
Right.
those edges break off.
Right.
So,
Shannon, is there gonna be, that stone, like, edge? Is it gonna have some kind of border, or is it just gonna be laid out?
So have a
let's hope
stone
for the
edge, and
best.
we've talked for the parking, for the parking areas, depending upon where it is. I think we talked about putting in some like wood guide rail or wood posts, just to, from a visual delineation as you're pulling off. So there is some visual barrier. And yes, I believe there will be some type of, edging there so that it doesn't bleed in. It'll hold it in place. They're working, I can't remember the local contractor, but they're working with one of the local paving contractors.
Okay.
On this. Yeah. Any other questions or concerns? All good? I'm getting head nods. I like it. Thank you. All right, you're all set. Evan. Good, thank you. And then parking and storage of commercial vehicles, I don't have much, I've got tied up with a number of other things. There's not really any additional progress on this. So we can continue discussion. I've met with both Mr. Davidson and Mr. Pogson on a variety of their concerns, understand what their thought processes are. I think some things for us to consider as a group is kind of the crux of the issue. Is it solely aesthetics for a large truck parking in a neighbor's driveway? Or is the concern that a commercial business or operation is being inadvertently run out of a residential property? And then thoughts on whether or not a graduated scale based on the size of the property is appropriate, or even like we do with sheds, that you're allowed so much by right, and then if you're going to go over that, then it requires a review with the commission to vet whether or not it's appropriate once we get to some of the larger classifications of vehicles. Loosely at this point, thinking that up to the 3 series would be appropriate, kind of by right, with almost virtually no limitation, I would think. And that it's, once you get beyond that, is it really appropriate? And I think then, obviously we're not having cement trucks parked in residential property on a regular basis. So, it's whether we go to the 4 or 5 series. And then I think at that point, anything above that most likely is not appropriate. But Garrett is back. Today was his first day back. So we're hoping to get our nose above water with a few things, get his feet back under him, and then maybe have a few more salient points for you folks for the next
Sleeping yet?
meeting. He is not sleeping yet. That's what yeah, they were the first week. It was all right. The babies, they trick us. That first week is all nice, and then not so much. So, but everybody is doing well, so that's the most important part. They're doing well, and everybody's healthy. So, so that's all I have for you for that. Again, I encourage, if you've got any thoughts or comments on that, or something that you think we should look into, please email us. We're happy to take in other points of view as we're muscling through this. And we'll grab a few. There's been suggestions on us taking a look at some other local regulations. So we'll do that as well.
I know when I was watching the video, I don't know if it was Mike or Matt, I couldn't really hear. But one of them mentioned electric vehicles and
Yes.
electric trucks.
Correct. And
And those are
heavy.
heavy.
Correct. And of course, they are not yet in this FHWA classification, and is where they go. So we could obviously start to look some of those up and just see from a weight classification where they fall. Yeah.
Nobody wants someone parking their dump truck next door
Right.
every night.
No, again,
But if
so
you
But
go
I
by-
also, but my brother has a regular Ford Ranger that's a combo plate, so, it's kind of.
Right.
Right.
It is, I understand you deep in the weeds.
trying to figure out a reasonable compromise
Right.
on it and something that is tangible as well,
Mhm.
so that we're not tripping over it from an enforcement standpoint.
And the prompt for us considering this is there have been complaints that you have been receiving
Oh, yes, I
related to
actually
that?
got
And
a,
are they aesthetic related complaints or running a business complaints or both?
honestly, I think some of them are more aesthetic. And I think the commission needs to determine whether or not that's germane. Sometimes it's probably about a 50-50 split. Some of it is solely aesthetics, and this is not permitted, so it shouldn't be allowed, and I don't want it on my street. And some of it is, it's here and there's, you know, their crew is gathering here, in which case then we get them on the home business end of it, right? They shouldn't be operating a home business. But even if it's an individual that's their work truck or their work van, which I just got a call about today, and that individual though is parking it on the street on a curve and creating a sightline issue. So that I'm gonna have to take a look to see, but it seems, you know, if it's a regular pickup truck, but it just has a commercial logo on it, right, and they're not operating the business out of their home, it's their assigned work vehicle that they bring home in the evening, because that's what they use, so.
So I mean, so in addition to, you know, either vehicle size or weights, there's consideration of, is there commercial signage on it? And do they have plumbing pipes strapped to it that stretch out into the street and things like that also?
Well,
No,
and
you know, that we-
the commission has to decide, and again, if it's somebody's work vehicle and this is what they're bringing home, then I don't even know if we can regulate it, quite honestly. I think we're probably really down a slippery slope.
Where I was going.
The
So,
painter who has, you know, extension ladders and he's driving the truck home. Yeah, but he has an office out off-site, but to load and unload those extension ladders and
Exactly.
just leave them strapped on, and when I go to work tomorrow.
Like we said, it's messy. And
Yeah.
it gets, the more you think about it, the
Right.
messier it gets.
Right, exactly.
Because I mean, you could get a Geico rep that drives home, and just because he's got a logo, are we gonna prohibit that? You know what I mean? And it's a car.
Right.
So we have to be careful with stuff like that. you know?
I agree, but I think that's where some of the complaints about aesthetics come from as well, the driver. It's not just a van. Oh, it's a commercial van because it says this and this.
Right.
Like I remember, and I don't know, it clicked the other night. I remember when I lived on Plainville Avenue, I used to come down Renault to go hop on the highway to go to Hartford. There was a guy that had his tractor trailer. He must have been over the whole, and you could always tell when he was home because there was a tractor trailer parked in his driveway. So, you know, I can understand how neighbors might get a little upset.
I owned an investment house in Essex a couple of years ago, and the guy across the street had 4 Ford pickup trucks parked on his lawn permanently because he was collecting them. They were old and he would never sell them. He had like gravel under each of the different wheels, and it certainly made it harder to sell the place when I wanted to. So I am sensitive to somebody who has issues or complaints about that. And he had, I think, 5 trucks in total on not that big a property.
Yeah.
And I think Essex allowed it.
well, right, and so at least for us, there's technically not, so obviously if somebody's holding a graduation party or a special event, we're not, again, there's exceptions to every rule. But as a rule, you are not allowed to park on the lawn in the front yard setback in Farmington, so in the residential zone. So in your driveway, yes, if you have a parking like a hammerhead, and but it has to be on asphalt. So on the grass, you're not supposed to have your vehicles permanently parked in the lawn in Farmington. So that's actually in the landscaping regulations. So there are a few things that we have available to us. Again, right, there's exceptions, whether we've got people visiting for a week or whatever, you let those things roll. But yeah, it's, there's many layers to this onion, to be sure.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that once we get to public hearing time, we may have a few individuals in wanting to chat about this.
What, chat, yeah.
Yes, well, just quick story. My son went to St. Lawrence University and up in Canton, New York, and I'm not sure whether, I think it was with Canton, but there was a gentleman who got into a disagreement with the town about what he could have on his yard and what he could use as signs, and he decorated with toilets.
Nice.
All over. Like it's
Wow.
all, it was like, okay, I can't do this, then guess what?
Yep.
And toilet statues, toilets with flowers coming out of them. So, you know,
Oh, there's
it's one of those
all
unintended
sorts of
consequences.
quirky zoning. I've got one from my hometown, and that gentleman wasn't white enough. He painted his house in Buffalo Bills blue and red.
Ah,
Mhm.
okay.
So
Yeah.
you
Hope the
get-
Steelers fan wasn't next door.
there's all sorts of things. So it does, yeah, you got to be really mindful of, right, understanding that they're part of a neighborhood, but there are property rights. And just because John does it one way and Susie does it another way, doesn't mean that either one is inherently wrong. It's just different. So,
Oh, yes.
yeah, so we will try to navigate this.
I'm curious on if a family does have like 3 trucks, what the long-term wear and tear on our roads would be comparatively to more compact cars. Doesn't
No,
matter.
I don't think it's, again, it's vehicle miles, and yes, there's a weight to it, but yeah, my guess is the director of public works would indicate that there's no, again, it's historically been a farming town. So we've had tractors and larger different vehicles on it and on most of the roads. And I don't think that's going to be an overarching issue with respect to the roadway maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Shannon? Okay, then I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the June 23rd meeting.
Well, I wasn't here, so.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 23rd, 2025 Town Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I appreciate all your cogent
Yeah.
comments. Thank
Nice
you.
family.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.